So where and when will Trump and Putin meet, and how strongly does Ukraine continue to attack legitimate military objects on Russian territory? This and other topics we will discuss right now. It's our YouTube channel War and Politics 24. My name is Iryna Uzlova, and today with us Michael Sheitelman, political strategist. Michael, glad to see you very much. Hello, thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Iryna. Glad to see you.
So Armen Sarkisyan, known as Horlivsky, a criminal authority from the era of Ukrainian pro-Russian ex-president Viktor Yanukovych, was blown up in Moscow. The explosion took place in one of the elite residential complexes where he was staying with security. How much do such murders instill fear and panic among Russian officials and Kremlin generals, among representatives of the Russian world?
Well, obviously it is under the big question if was it work of our special forces or was it just some intra-Russian criminal killing, yeah? That's not obvious. Then in cases when our special forces liquidate generals, like general of chemical weapon, for example, in the Moscow city center, it was just a couple of months ago, it was obvious that this target is the only target of Ukrainian army. But this guy we are speaking about, he is rather half criminal and half soldier. It's not obvious is he soldier or is he criminal element. And he has a lot of enemies inside the Russian Federation, because he had also the big business interests in occupied territories and not only fighting interests. In spite being the establisher of Armenian-Russian military unit, Armenian-Russian military unit. So yes, it is not nice for Moscow citizen to see such an explosion in the city center, and especially in this. It is very famous place. This is very famous. This is like, I can compare that only just to some Trump Tower, for example, in New York, this place in Moscow. And this guy who was liquidated in this building, he just rented an apartment in this building, not owned this apartment. And it's interesting if the next generation of owners of these apartments, they will sub-rent their apartments to war criminal. This is very good case. If you don't want explosion inside your house, inside your building, just don't give a rent to war criminals. That's clear message, I believe, from Ukrainian special forces, if it were Ukrainian special forces who liquidated this guy.
Yes, clear rules, but they cannot do it in well, so they have such fate. Drones struck fuel facilities in the Astrakhan and Volgograd region of the Russian Federation. On the night of February 3, drones attacked many Russian regions. In particular, a gas processing plant near Astrakhan was attacked, according to Andriy Kovalenko, head of the Center for Countering Disinformation of Ukraine. So, Michael, how do you think? What does the trend of increasing attacks on Putin's oil and gas infrastructure tell us about, and how much do such attacks strengthen our position at the future negotiations table?
At the beginning, it strengthened our position at the war, not on the negotiation table, obviously. It was, by the way, very unique attack, the first of this kind. Because this Astrakhan plant, this is not just oil refinery, the regular oil refinery. By the way, Ukrainian army hit more than 30 different oil refineries during the war, out of 46 oil refineries. They have in Russia 46 oil refineries, and Ukrainian army struck about 30 of them. So this one was gas proceeding refinery, which is not just energy object. This plant produce from natural gas, produce polymer materials, which is very deep proceeding of gas. And this is rather unique, because in Russia we have only 4 big refineries from this kind. One of them in Astrakhan and one of them in Orenburg on Ural Mountains. By the way, this night we also tried to hit Orenburg refinery, the same refinery in Orenburg, but we didn't succeed. And two others Russians they have on Far East, which is very long distance from Ukraine, so we don't have technical possibility to strike. And this gas refinery stopped working this night. So it is 25% of oil of all the Russian gas proceeding. So it is very important from technical point of view, and we can't say how long it is stopped. It stopped its operation, but obviously we will feel lack of some materials in Russian Federation, and this is military materials, also polymers. So this is first. Second, it is just a war, yeah. And in our war, we strike a lot big Russian, big Russian manufacturers, and the best target is gas and oil, because we have secondary explosive in this manufacturing. When you strike, for example, some timber production, you just strike with 40 kilo of nitro in your drone, and that's it. But here in this case, you have 40 kilo of nitro in your drone and some megatons of gas on the place. So you have second, third explosive on the place. So it is very, very effective from just war point of view, from the regular war. Speaking about negotiation, I'm not sure this is a part of negotiation, but interesting is another point. This technical possibility of Ukrainian army to hit so many targets of Russian oil and gas production means we use hundreds of drones per day, hundreds of drones. And this is huge, big drones, like planes, like small passenger planes. And from American side, we heard that United States finance production of these planes. And this is produced in Ukraine, but with American finance. So obviously all of these targets we have today, they are, let's say, they were negotiable with Trump administration, I believe. So this is part of Trump program of pressing Russia and pushing Russia to negotiation. This is first. And second is more sanctions. Yeah, this looks like one more sanctions on Russian gas and oil, and reducing production of Russian gas and oil, and reducing Russian gas and oil on world market, which is also part of President Trump program. So the good news that United States support us in these actions.
And I think, why doesn't Putin protect his gas and oil facilities, or is Putin simply unable to do it? It seems to me that Russia is large in territory, but weak in essence.
Yeah, absolutely impossible. We have, as I mentioned, we have about 45, 46 oil refineries plus gas refineries. Plus, we hit not only refineries, but we hit also storage of gas and oil, and together it is hundreds of points on all the Russian territory, which is absolutely huge. And they don't know what point we will hit today. We have some counter drone weapon, but this is not missiles. This is not missiles on each refinery. You can't put missiles on each refinery. You can only use some rifles, anti-drone rifles. Yeah, and in each case, our army uses not one drone which hits the refinery. For example, average attack, as I see in the press and the reports, average attack on refinery is 30 drones simultaneously. So, and for us, enough only one can get to the target. And this night, by the way, 3 of them got to the target in Astrakhan.
Yes. Donald Trump, USA president, says that his administration has meetings and talks set with Ukraine, Russia, and various parties. So, how important is that Trump and his administration negotiate with Ukraine first and then with Russia? Does the order matter in this case? What are the parties involved in the negotiations? Is Trump talking about? Maybe is Trump talking about Europe and China, for example?
You know, the most philosophical but also practical question, it is what is the role of United States on this negotiation? What is the role? We were used during 3 years that United States is our ally. And the question is, in this negotiation, United States is our ally or United States is just a middleman in negotiation? We don't need middlemen. We had a lot of middlemen. We had African Union as middleman, we had China, we had Indonesia, we had Hungary, Slovakia, Brazil, who knows. So why we need United States as middleman? Not obvious. And middlemen usually bring some conditions to both parties. Take the condition from one party and bring them to another party and ask, are you ready to follow this condition or not? But this is not the case. We don't want some conditions from Americans. Russians, they push us. So we don't want Americans to push us. Russians put pressure on us with military way 3 years. We don't want some other force like Americans to also to press us in this negotiation. So that is the biggest question. And if United States is still our ally and not middleman, so in this case, obviously, we should have the common position, Ukraine and United States, and maybe also Europe, if Europe want to join. And only with this common position, we, by American way or Ukrainian way, doesn't matter, get to Russian Federation, to the Russian authorities, and discuss our offer for this negotiation. Till now, we don't see that works this way. Because Mr. Trump mentioned Ukraine and Russia in one sentence. I negotiate with Russia, I negotiate with Ukraine. And not we, Ukraine and US, negotiate with Russian Federation. Which is very non-pleasant point, let's say.
So in this case, does the order matter with whom Trump will first communicate, with us or with Russian Federation? Because our president, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, thinks that it is important that Trump should communicate first with Ukraine to build some plan how to speak after conversation with us, with Russian dictator Vladimir Putin.
And also symbolic meaning, not only practical, not only plan, but also this first meeting between Trump and Zelensky will show all the world that we are still allies. And Americans were not middlemen in this case. This is the difference. And this is why we insist on first meeting between Zelensky and Trump, and only afterwards some calls or something between Trump and Putin.
On your opinion, are we still allies, or Donald Trump hasn't already made the decision about it, who is USA or who will be USA for us?
Exactly. It looks like we are not allies in this case. In military field, we are allies, but on negotiation table, it looks like they are between us and Russians. But we don't need anybody who are in between. We could communicate directly. There is no problem to communicate directly. So that is question. But you know, still it is too early to criticize this way and this position, because we just don't have any knowledge, any information. For me, it looks like Americans also does not succeed to negotiate something with Russian Federation. If we had any success in this route of negotiation, we will report that. Because President Trump, he runs to tell everybody that he has some real success. But not in this case. We never heard about any success of negotiation between Russia and US. So I believe we just in the very, very beginning point, or the positions of US and Russian Federation were far away one from other, and they don't have any compromise position.
But US President Donald Trump's special representative for Ukraine and Russia, Keith Kellogg, said a few days ago that he thinks that solving of Ukrainian-Russian war is a question not for years but for months. Also, yesterday, Keith Kellogg reported that both countries would have to make concessions in the hope to reach a settlement to the war. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has already made it clear that he will soften his position on the territories, and Russian leader Vladimir Putin will also have to soften his position. Over time, and probably in the near future, we will have discussions with everyone, and that is good for both sides, Kellogg said in the television interview with Fox News. Is Putin ready to make any concessions at all? Because judging by his actions, such an option doesn't seem possible.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't look like Putin are ready to some compromise. If we taken as a starting point Putin's position, and Putin's position was proclaimed last summer when he wants 6 of Ukrainian region to annex 6 of Ukrainian regions, and only 2 of them Putin's army now control, Crimea and Sevastopol, and another 4 regions Russian army does not control, and they want to grab it from Ukraine towards Russian Federation, and we never heard any another compromising positions. So it looks like Keith Kellogg makes maximum what he can, but he does not can a lot.
But is he right that our war and scenarios of its solving solution about Russian-Ukrainian war, it's really a question not for years, but I think belong to your answer that we are only at the beginning point of this process.
Oh, I can't predict anything about this because we really we don't know what is in Putin's head. We just don't know. It is very difficult to evaluate the state of Russian economy first, but more complicated is to understand if Putin cares about the state of Russian economy. We can't evaluate state of Russian army also, but again, we can't know what if Mr. Putin cares about Russian army at all. If he goes all in, so he just doesn't care about Russian future, any future of Russian Federation. It looks like that. It looks like that. Maybe this is just a game, or maybe this is the real his real thoughts. Yeah, and I can't guess, and I wouldn't gamble on any thoughts of Mr. Putin, because he changes his mind every day in his public speeches. I mean, just every day. You know, last week we had a new interview by Mr. Putin, and to his friend journalist. And this interview was organized, very interesting, because it was organized inside the car. And one of sentences from one of claims from Mr. Putin was that in 2022, then just full-scale war started, the only conditions from Putin's side was for Ukrainian forces to withdraw from Lugansk and Donetsk regions. That's it. But if it is true, so why he started war against Kyiv and Odessa and Nikolaev and Kherson and absolutely in other regions, and why he wanted to destroy Ukrainian and wanted to change the power in Ukraine, and he brought his his old friend Mr. Yanukovych to be Ukrainian president. It is absolutely not true, because they absolutely another thing really happened 3 years ago. And now he claims that he just wanted 2 regions. So why now he wants 6 regions? Why now he wants 6 regions if 3 years ago he wanted just 2, as he claims now? It doesn't look like, somebody who is going step by step to the same direction.
But why has Kit Kellogg not visited Ukraine to this moment? Maybe we see that the negotiation process itself is being delayed, or it's only and just a matter of that preparatory steps to the future negotiations. Why?
Today we heard from President Zelensky that this visit is prepared, visit of Kit Kellogg to Ukraine. But I believe he postponed this visit because he doesn't have any success with his contacts with Russians. I can't say if the call between Trump and Putin took place. We don't know. But obviously the team of Kit Kellogg had some conversation with team of Mr. Putin team. And obviously they don't have any success. With minimal success, Kit Kellogg were here or in Moscow to discuss the details. But now to come and to say, I don't know what Mr. Putin wants, that is not so, not so promising visit.
Okay, but we are waiting to Keith Kellogg, and not only for him, Marco Rubio, Secretary of United States. Also, we are glad to see him there. President of Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky, told about it a few days ago that Marco Rubio, State Secretary, can visit Ukraine and see how we live under the pressure and aggression by Russian Federation. Maybe will we see Marco Rubio's visit to us?
This is 2 different cases, because visit of Marco Rubio could be connected not only to peace process. Kit Kellogg has only one job. This is peace process between Russian Federation and Ukraine. Kit Kellogg does not care about, for example, financial aid to Ukraine. Kit Kellogg does not care about the future of Ukraine, if Ukraine will be part of NATO or Ukraine or will be part of European Union. Kit Kellogg doesn't care about supply of weapon to Ukrainian army. All of this is the sphere of Marco Rubio. So visit of Marco Rubio is very important, and we had a lot to discuss with him. Our authorities had a lot to discuss with him, but it doesn't necessarily connect it to exactly peace process and negotiation with Russian Federation. This is a difference.
Okay, thank you. Reuters reported to Russian sources said to Reuters that Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates seen as possible venues for Trump-Putin summit. Two Russian sources say, why these countries? Why not consider Turkey, for example?
I don't see any logic after this, just anything. Because why to fly to Saudi Arabia? Mr. Trump has a lot of contacts with Saudi Arabia. It is not regarding Russian war. It is only regarding prices of oil. And this is not connected to Putin. And believe me, in this world, there are a lot of places where American president and Russian president could meet one another. Last meeting between Russian and American president was 4 years ago, and it was between Biden and Putin, and it was in Geneva in Switzerland. And I believe then during the Cold War, the meetings between Gorbachev and Reagan, we were in Malta, we were in Reykjavik. So believe me, the globe is big enough for the meeting of these presidents. And additionally, it doesn't matter where we will meet. What matters if it will be on with the conditions of Ukraine or not. That is important.
But it seems to me that for Russian dictator Putin, it can be important because 123 countries can arrest him.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, in this case, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay, and this number of these countries are really pretty for sounding. Okay, Putin is afraid not only about arrest, but afraid of negotiations, direct negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. He cannot admit defeat. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told about it in an interview for an Associated Press. Why is Putin so afraid really of direct negotiations with Ukraine, and what does his latest statement in that car with his Russian propagandist Zarubin about Zelensky illegitimacy indicate for us? What is Putin counting on?
Yeah, it looks like, it is very strange to say, also for me it is very strange to say, but it looks like he has some fear for President Zelensky. Putin has some fear about President Zelensky, just physically on some physical level, I don't know, on psychological level, because he never met opponent like Mr. Zelensky. In his political life, he met, opponents or how to say that, or two soft opponents who follow the rules, very old-fashioned diplomatic rules. And Mr. Zelensky not one of this kind. And also, with years, and Mr. Putin is president of Russian Federation during last 25 years, he got to be not so flexible guy, about President Putin, not so quickly thinking guy. He is rather a stubborn old man, and he speaks like stubborn old man, and he looks like stubborn old man. So it is difficult to negotiate with very rather young and quick thinker, Mr. Zelensky. So Mr. Putin just feels personally that he will lose to Mr. Zelensky in each negotiation, in each conversation. He will lose to smart thinking and quickly thinking Mr. Zelensky, and rather strong, also strong guy from mental point, about Zelensky. So he wants some other opponent. Mr. Putin, he wants some other opponent. But this is psychological, this is something psychological. And also, Russians, they want to, and they declared that, but they want to negotiate only with United States about the future and about the fate of Eurasia and Europe and the globe. Yeah, that was claimed by Foreign Minister of Russian Federation, Mr. Lavrov, and also by Kremlin spokesman, Mr. Peskov. And they want to meet one another, two guys, Putin and Trump, and probably they want also Chinese President Xi to sit together. This is what I describe now, it is Mr. Putin's dream. And they discuss the future of the world. But the reality is different. Russia is a very small country. This is a big country in geographical position, but this is a very small country from economic point of view. So this is only country number 20 or 50 in the world, something like that, and only 2% of GDP, of world GDP. So the place of this country, of Russian Federation, is not on the table of big guys. Obviously, he is just some regional Tsar and not more. And it is difficult to him to recognize that. And this is why he wants personal negotiation with Trump.
Stubborn and stupid dictator, and he's really awful. US President Donald Trump believes that the decision to impose tariffs on goods from Canada, Mexico and China is justified, even if it may be painful for the US economy. Can it be argued that Trump really started a trade war, and how high are the risks now for the USA, for the Ukraine and the whole world of further inflaming economic confrontation?
Well, this is not part of our war, obviously, and all what happens between US, Canada, Mexico, we can't interfere there. It's just not in our competence and not in our world, absolutely. We just could be some neutral side in this. And the only care is about the next step of Mr. Trump, because he said that the next the next target of his economic war is European Union. In this case, we had a side we should stay about. It is European side, obviously. And Mr. Macron, for example, President of France, said today two very important things about this potential economic war between US and the EU. First, we should be ready to fight back, European guys, yeah. And second, we want to double our army. That is Mr. Macron said. And obviously, when he said about doubling army, it is not to be in the situation like Denmark now is. Then Denmark couldn't fight back to United States if United States occupy Greenland. So it is very dangerous situation for Ukraine, but it is dangerous for Ukraine is for part of European Union, not for Ukraine itself.
Clear, understand. Michael, thank you very much for our today's conversation and for your clever opinion, for your time. Sure. See you next week. Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Iryna. Bye.
Bye. Michael Sheitelman, political strategist. Iryna Uzlova, my name. Guys, thank you for viewing and for joining. See you next week. Take care.